Welcome to Tami's Soul Speak, featuring animal intuitive and medium Tami Hendricks, offering insight, spirituality, transformation, and clarity to every soul. Now, here's Tami.
Hello. Happy Wednesday to you. Happy September. I believe this is the first time we're actually meeting, and it's been just a minute as we've almost here at the end of September, and so much has happened that I'm excited that you're here. I'm excited for us to share this experience called a show, called a gathering together in the room. And so today's topic about heart shapes is so special, and I believe you're going to get a lot out of it. I believe that you're going to really understand things on a deeper level by the time the show is over. But to start with, as you come into the space of the room, check out your surroundings. Make sure all of you has landed. Look around the room. Identify some things in your room. Sometimes we rush and we get to the next thing and the next thing. And of course, it's, the middle of the day on the East Coast and earlier on the West Coast. So just make sure all of you check out. Are you here? Is part of you somewhere else? Because I'd love to have all of you so that we can, with all the animals, be so present, because that's what they are all of the time. And as you get settled in, just breathe deep breath and out through your mouth, and just let go of any stresses or concerns that you've brought with you, because I think you're really going to open up your heart in our time together. Barb, it's good to see you. Is it beautiful where you are? And Patricia, always good to see you. You're both from Canada. Is it beautiful there right now? The leaves are just starting to turn here, and the temperatures are cooler. The bears are out eating the acorns. It's just such a nice time of year. And Jessica, good to see you. I love that you're here. A big hug to you too. Hopefully you'll tell me how Pumi is. And Steve, good afternoon. Oh, I didn't know I froze up. I'm sorry. And Lauren, good to see you. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you can make it for the time you can. And good morning, Charmaine. It's interesting you're saying thank you for being here and raising everyone's spirits and our sweet babies. That's actually what we all do in order to meet them where they are, is their vibrations are always on such a higher level and such an open space. They always help us ground in that. And Diane, beautiful day in Canada. A lot of Canadians here. Look forward to these monthly calls. I do too. I've missed everybody. Life has been a journey for me, and I have had lots and lots of passings of animals, never before to the degree I have had. So I'll share something again today about that. Nancy, so happy to see you too. I'm so glad that you're all coming in. It's just so nice to get together. I was thinking before our time together and being quiet like I normally do. And I was realizing that when we have life happen, events happen, a lot of times in the hurry of it, or in the shock of it, or whatever kind of experience it is, we actually pop out of our bodies. We're actually not present. And that's why, I think it's really important to always remembering to be like opening to the immediacy of the experience, not fixed in it, where we kind of get carried away in it, not rigid in it either, but open, just having an experience. And I had a little thinking today that the technology wasn't going to work for us. And I'm like, oh no, I want to see everybody. And, I did just open to that space of, a little bit of nervousness, a little bit of, oh my gosh, is this going to, we're going to have to cancel the show. and realizing that, you know what, I'm still quite here. Through all of that, that was just coming into the space of my orbit called an experience. So as we go through today, let's really drop into our heart spaces and our own heart shapes, and keep coming in and keep saying hello. Hello, Dora from San Diego, and Mary in South Carolina, and Jen, Nova Scotia, Canada. Hi, Maria. I love seeing everybody. So I have, I want to share a little writing I have about my animals that, Renee, if you would put up the slide, it'll help start us off on our conversation, I think. So it comes from, and I'll show you in a minute, I have dropped an ebook on my website, and if you go in and sign up for my newsletter, you'll receive the ebook, and it's all about my animals, my experiences. I had to actually pick and choose which ones to include. There are many, many more, and many more that haven't been written about. But this is where I learned about heart shapes. Is I was taught it. I was shared it with from my animals. So this is chapter 7, and I'll just start partway through. And I'm talking about my own experience here. They came to teach, to heal, and to personally grow themselves, meaning the animals that have come. We never forget true connections, ones that create our heart shapes. It was the animals who taught me this term, heart shapes. These experiences, the animals said, form heart shapes, all of our life experiences. The animals told me that we all have lessons, life paths, and heart journeys, individual paths that intersect with others. What a setup. We come in as healers, teachers, and kinders, which was, I'd never heard that before. That is, souls who come here to share kindness in order to heal the world and others. These are just a few of the soul paths they have shared, dedicated souls on a mission. I once asked Katie, one of my dearest friends, about this. She said, healing occurs within and without, but healing can be painful and often is. Humans ask and pray for healing and have a specific goal in mind, when actually healing is a high vibration energy that responds to the area where it is needed most. It may or may not be the goal they have in mind. It may be physical, emotional, or spiritual. When I asked her to explain more about how animals participate, she pointed to my own journey of physical, emotional, and spiritual healing. She was right, of course. So many times I've asked for healing, only to experience it in a way that was totally unexpected. My own healings have been journeys in which I've been invited, well, forced, to look within at my own patterns and misunderstandings. Pretty sure I'm a slow learner, but the animals have had infinite patience. They have consistently shown me how to take sturdy steps, how to be confident in myself, how to be authentic and not compromise who I am. Life is our journey together, animal and human. Healing occurs at the heart level first. So what is your heart shape? What does it look like? Is it round and soft, big and pink, rainbow colored? Does it have warmth? How does your heart shape flow out to others? Have animals played a role in shaping yours? I don't know about you, but my heart shape is continually changing and expanding. It shows the rough edges as well as the fragile corners. If you touch it, you can feel its softness and warmth as well as its fragile edges. The animals have repeatedly taught me to be vulnerable in your heart is not a weakness, it is a strength. It's the love we share with one another, Katie says, that creates the healing alchemy of spinning silver into gold and hearts into shapes of all sizes and colors that reveal who we truly are. So I wanted to share that with you to start us on our own heart shape vulnerability healing journey today. And Renee, if you would put up the slide just so they can see the ebook and what it might look like if you choose to get on the site and sign up. And it's interesting. I didn't do this deliberately, but Ollie's Odyssey there on the left. He was a little Jack Russell, and he just passed September 12th. Just an amazing, I had a dream ahead of time. His passing played out exactly like the dream did. And so, I sort of dedicate this to Ollie and all the babies, all of us who have, they've touched our lives and have passed through. And so, Renee, if you'd put up the next slide, yes. So, heart shapes. In a metaphorical sense, our emotional hearts take on different heart shapes, right, as we experience life events. And I put my quote up there: to be vulnerable in your heart is not a weakness, it's a strength. And so this is what we do together here. We open our hearts and we allow ourselves to be vulnerable. So Renee, if you would, hang on a minute, put up the slide that is, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Abraham Hicks, but I want you to scan it, take a look at it. There's an emotional guidance scale. I'm sure some of you are familiar with them, Esther Hicks. And I like the rundown here, with joy being at the top of the list, meaning very high vibration, so as you go down, optimism, still high, hopefulness, contentment, right there is a tipping point when we kind of hit the skids a little bit, go into boredom, pessimism. And if you look, there's so many heavy ones from like 8 on, overwhelmment, disappointment. And look at the very bottom, from the blame, the discouragement, anger, hatred, rage, jealousy, fear, grief, depression, despair, powerlessness. Haven't we all felt points of those? And so those actually correspond to the different, I'd say, heart shapes that we have. So I wanted to go over this first so you can, as I go through the next pieces, be thinking about where you've landed on this scale in your own life. So Renee, if you would put up the next slide. So these are not all in the world that that we could ever name. There's no way. But these are some heart shapes that I feel like maybe we all have shared. So whole heart, let's just start there. It's like our emotional state before we experience profound loss. Maybe when we're very young and open and unaware of the depth of certain feelings. Number 2, broken heart. After a loss, our heart might be broken or shattered, like we would describe it, where we have overwhelming grief, disbelief, and pain. Much after a loss of our beloved animals or any kind of relationship, really. So mending heart, right? Over time, we begin to process and maybe find ways to cope. The heart starts to mend a little bit, may take some time, right? And it may never return to its original shape, but it becomes whole again in a new way. I like that imagery, whole again in a new way. This shape signifies resilience and healing. Expansive heart. As we develop empathy and a deeper appreciation for life and relationships, our emotional heart expands. It becomes larger, more encompassing, more capable of holding various emotions and experiences. So as I'm going through 1 through 4, the whole heart, would you agree, and the expansive heart, and maybe even the mending heart probably are higher on that emotional scale as compared to the broken heart, which would be at that lower end, right, that we've probably all felt. So Renee, if you'd move to the next ones. We often don't think in terms of a fortified heart. After facing our challenges and enduring pain, the heart can become strengthened, actually. It's not that it's impervious to pain, but it's more resilient and has a greater capacity to recover and heal. Open heart. Some individuals become more open and receptive after experiencing loss. They're more willing to form new relationships, new experiences, express vulnerability, Having an open heart connects us to others in the world. How many of you relate to guarded heart? Sometimes our experiences make us shut down and become guarded. We protect, I call it like a heart wall. And you can feel it in people, actually, where they're kind of guarded and you can only come so close, and that's just their boundary, which is fine. But we protect ourselves, a lot of times without even realizing that we aren't open, and we've done that, and then that becomes that new norm for us. And then the fragmented heart. How many of you relate to that, where we carry the remnants of multiple profound experiences, losses? I call it like the emotional shrapnel. Their heart may be fragmented, that's broken up in pieces with no connection between the pieces. Kelly said, definitely guarded heart with pups at the moment. I understand that. And Susie says, I've always had the guarded heart. Susie, you haven't with animals. You really haven't. Maybe with people. And, the animals have an uncanny ability to reach our emotional cores, right? In a way that nobody else, no human can. Kat says, I can relate to every one of those at different times in my life. Yes, I would agree. Don't we flow back and forth? Me too, totally. My teacher, Sharon, always told me that a broken heart actually expands even further. It causes an expansion, and we may not feel it at the time, but on a very spiritual level, it takes us into another dimension. Sometimes we need kind of a facilitator or a guide to do that, and that's where friends come in, or people that you might reach out to, people that understand you. Linda says she's guarded at the moment. A lot of you are guarded right now. Tell me this, are you guarded right here in the room? It doesn't feel that way to me. I think, though, that you're recognizing maybe in your day-to-day, and from the experiences you've recently had, like Lauren is recently, I'm feeling guarded for sure about getting another pup after losing our young one so suddenly. That's totally natural, absolutely natural to do. And, maybe it's not the right time until you have that green light. If it's a flashing yellow light, it's just like maybe you need to pause and just wait till the timing feels like it's the right time. Deanna said, I've had my heart broken and broken open. Yes. And Maria says she's still brokenhearted right now. Mary says she's not guarded in the room. That's beautiful. I would agree with you there. Yes, Kara says, I feel love and contentment in the room. I do too. We're all kindred souls here. Yes, Kelly, agreed. We all pull together in the same space, and it gets created very quickly. Once we hit the room, the animals go to work, opening us all up. Patricia said, my heart changes shapes from day to day. That's beautiful. You know what? Those heart shapes are fluid, right? And can change many times over a person's life, reflecting the ongoing journey of growth, right? Challenges, transformations. So how do animals help us with our heart shapes? How do they help us heal? Animals serve as powerful conduits for emotional growth, healing, and transformation. Goodness, if it weren't for the animals, we'd probably all be stuck somewhere. I feel like with Ollie's passing, after so many others from July on, it broke me open. And the dream I had was I was in the room with the vet, and the vet had Ollie on his lap, and he looked really good. And then there was a third being in the room. I was sitting, the vet was sitting, and there was a third being who reached down, and I didn't have like a visual. It just felt like some kind of guide, and picked up Ollie and put Ollie into my arms. So the beautiful thing about that is Ollie was feral and came to me in 2006, couldn't be touched, and all his life really never embraced. I couldn't just pick him, scoop him up and hug Ollie. So, in the dream, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm holding Ollie. It's just like the most amazing feeling ever. He was named after Oliver Twist. And in the end, that is exactly how it played out. Just beautiful, holding Ollie in my arms as he passed, where I was the first one to see him in his new life with me and the last one. And I felt so honored. So my heart certainly grew, and my heart shape has been all over the place since we last saw each other. But they help us grow, and they bridge emotional gaps for us, and they help us enrich our human experience in profound ways. So Renee, if you would put up the slide, I'd like to just go over with you some of the things that we probably all would agree on about what animals offer us, right? This is a no-brainer, right? Unconditional love. Many animals provide such a consistent source of that. Unwavering affection can be incredibly healing, especially when we feel misunderstood or undervalued in human relationships. Oh my goodness, do I relate to that? I can remember as a child holding on to Ginger's sturdy neck and just burying my face in her fur. No words needed. Oh, Patricia said that was a beautiful experience. It really was. I'll share more about Ollie. He's just, what a journey, and what he taught me and what he shared in his 18 years with me. So present moment awareness, right? The animals all bring us here in the room, living in the present. And every time we interact with them, even if you're walking along in Central Park and you look at a pigeon or you look at a dove or you see another dog, it's like pinging you back into the moment, reminding us of the importance of living life now. And obviously the comfort and solace, right? Petting an animal or cat, feeling them, it calms you, reduces stress, it aids in our emotional healing. I love this quote from St. Francis: "A cat purring on your lap is more healing than any drug in the world, as the vibrations you're receiving are of pure love and comfort," which, high on the vibrational scale, very, very high emotion. And Renee, if you would pop it over to the next slide. So I know this one, they give us a responsibility and purpose, for us, those of us, if we're struggling with feelings of worthlessness or aimlessness, animals give us, it's why if we go volunteer at a shelter, it helps us. If we help another, we help ourselves. Connection to nature. They bring us in, whether it's wildlife, pets, any kind of animals, they connect us to the broader natural world. That's why I always loved as a child. I loved being outside. Of course, it was nutsy in my house, so it was easy to like being right there. It was always lots of drama, lots of sadness, lots of crazy stuff going on. So I really connected with trees, animals, plants, you name it. I knew all the plants in the whole backyard and which animals lived where. So social catalysts. Think of how many times our animals help us meet somebody or get us out for a walk. And then we have casual conversations, which lead to human interaction and helping, alleviate feelings of isolation or loneliness. And of course, as we talked about before, mirror to our emotions. Animals are incredibly perceptive, and they all, they 9 times out of 10 are mirroring what we are going through in our own lives. It helps us with our self-awareness, right? And introspection. Nancy says she's had 2 cats pass since early May. This seems to be a year of exiting for many. I'm wondering about that too, because in all my years of having all my babies, I've never had as many. Of course, they're older. Mine are, Inky was 20, 21, Ollie 18, Ernie 15, 16. So, logically speaking, you would kind of expect. But it's interesting, and we'll talk about this a little later, how we locate their age as, they had a full life, as opposed to, when Lauren had one leave very young at 4, it doesn't make sense. And so our minds just can't wrap around it. So I'd like to share a few more with you. the teaching resilience, right? They teach us about the impermanence of life and resilience in the face of challenges and the healing power of time and love. And I don't know, Renee, if you have that slide. If you don't, it's fine. 8, 9, and 10 should be around. There you go. Empathy. Gosh, they teach even the gruffest to be empathetic to the needs of an animal. We put aside our own interest and care for another being. And some of us are very natural at that. We're very empathetic. And, of course, there's a therapeutic interaction. Equine therapy dogs, cats in elderly homes, their mere presence can facilitate emotional breakthroughs, reduce anxiety, and promote feelings of well-being. Do any of you relate to these pieces? And would you add anything to that list? Kelly, yes, so many losses lately. And the losses lately, it gives us a real opportunity to realize all the many, many gifts. And I know that's not a substitute, but it certainly is an extraordinary opportunity for us to see what we valued most. Kara says they're very therapeutic. My best therapy is when I'm with my animals. Jeff says all of these. And Maria, definitely my Louie was my therapy dog for sure. And Kat says all of them. So I ask you a couple questions. Which positive aspects, and some of you have shared that. I'd like to see some more. Patty says to live in the present. What have you experienced with your pet? Are there several on that list? And are there other ones we haven't mentioned? I'm sure that was just a list that the animals channeled with me, but goodness, and especially as we start talking about the heart shapes that the animals share with us, my goodness, we could go all kinds of descriptions. Linda says, I agree with you. My Zeus was all of this and more. And Deanna, laughter. Sometimes they are just so silly. Yes, they are. And oh gosh, don't we all need to laugh? I posted a little picture of Twinkie, who's a little dog of mine. If you look on my page, and my question to you is, she's crafty, hilarious, and very quick-witted. And what do you think she's known for? And so, you all gave some really funny and insightful responses. Twinkie is best known for stealing money. She will steal dollar bills, $20, but whatever it is, and run hilariously like it's the funniest thing, and go under the sofa where you can't get her, stick her head out, and she's got it like hanging from her mouth, and you're like, give it to me, give it to me. And one time I tried to, and of course it ripped, and she thought that was hysterical. So she is a little joy guide for sure, 100% joy guide. Martine says, today my cat surprised me. She went to lay next to my young rescue shelter pet on our garden bench. Amazing cat soul, so very precious and so independent. Such a smart soul. Yeah. Yes, that's beautiful. Gosh, they're so intuitive and they're so empathetic and insightful. Linda says, he knew my soul. That's just a beautiful sentence. He knew my soul. He was there with my life partner, when my life partner died a year ago tomorrow. Oh my goodness. That's a rough day coming up. Zeus knew without words what I needed. That's how we communicate with our hearts, right? That is exactly what we do. We're all communicators. You never have to actually seek out another source. You've got it. You've got a heart. Hi, Agatha. This past weekend, I was at a cider mill. A dog came over to sit by my side. The owner said she didn't know why she pulled her over to me. When she was sitting there, she rubbed her head on my leg. Owner said she's never done that. Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. That is a healer soul, if ever, and meeting another healer soul, I might add. That's really beautiful. So what if you've lost a pet? How do your heart shapes come into play then, right? How does that change from maybe our regular heart shapes, from our life experiences, from our, human experiences? What does the heart look like and feel now? So question, do certain circumstances intensify or alter the experience of grief and loss. Is there ever a perfect way where they pass to where we agree with it? Probably we have a script in our head. Like my sharing with Ollie, you never want him to go. And I remember being very present in the room with him, just being aware of where we were, what we were doing. And I was hearing him breathe and hearing and matching my breath to his. I didn't want to miss anything. And so would you say, and Renee, if you'll put up, I've got about 4 things that I thought I'd share with you about let's say the age of the pet. Losing it. And I hear a lot as we go through these. With my clients, I work a lot with these 4 pieces right here, tremendous amount. Losing a pet that's been with someone for many years can bring intense grief due to the length of the shared bond, right? When they're very old and you've had them forever and they've been through all your heart journeys. And on the other hand, losing a young pet can amplify feelings of unfairness, stolen potential, like they had so much life to live and it got cut short. And that causes intense grief. I don't know that we can compare experiences with each other like that because we are so individual and it's such a personal journey. Lauren says, yes, that's what I keep saying. She had so much life to live with us. And animals actually don't judge their lives based on the quantity. They base it on the quality. I had a little puppy named Wilbur from the Charlotte's Web puppies pass with hemophilia at 4 months old. And he felt like he had a very complete life because he was a teacher soul and came here to teach with the people that he was with. Very profound teaching. The nature of the passing. A sudden or tragic death can be more shocking, right? Leading to terrible feelings of disbelief. And it's just such a shock. It shocks us into another zone. There's no way about it. It's like we go through a portal. There might be more what ifs involved. Questioning if anything could have been done differently. I know I certainly have had many, many experiences like that. And you just have to go through it in the best way you can. And Renee, if you put the other 2 up while I check these, yes. Melissa says, losing my pet who had been with me for 13 years was very intense grief. It's real. It's very real. And it doesn't, one time when I was in college, and I think it was in a religion class, there was a professor that's asked, if people who are older are ready to pass, do they feel like because they were older that they've had enough life lived? And several of the people in there said, well, yes, because they had a life to live. And there was an older guy in there and he's probably 78. And he said, you never stop. You never, it's the beauty of the life. And so it's funny how we put things in ages. If they left at 4 months, they feel, we feel that they have stolen potential. At the same time, they don't feel that. So it's interesting how we process life. So euthanasia, boy, that's a hard one. Deciding to euthanize a pet due to illness or old age, it brings about a lot of feelings, doesn't it? It's a compassionate choice to prevent suffering, but the weight of making that decision can lead to guilt and second guessing. And I work with people all the time on this, and I have lived this. We teach from direct experience with each other. And so Melissa says, I'm still second guessing and guilt with Jasper. Yes, it's a journey we have to go through. And at some point, I feel like your healing journey is going to be allowing yourself to not hang on to that anymore. But it takes time. Natural passing, when a pet passes away peacefully, the grief, while still profound, might be accompanied by gratitude for a life well lived and a peaceful end. Would you agree that I've had pets pass away on their own, and I've had pets I've needed to help pass. It's always a support role that I'm in, them guiding the way the entire time, including Ollie. Linda says, Zeus had 2 years of cancer. He died in January. I held him till he stopped breathing. I kept telling him to look for Nancy, my life partner. I kept saying, do you see her? Do you hear her? That's quite beautiful. Zeus has come through very, very strongly in this show already. So many of your animals are showing up through your comments and the things you're thinking. Agatha said, I feel my Eva around me. Just had a feather float down in front of me last week, and every morning a cardinal tweets and flies by. It's really important to notice the signs and appreciate them, not push them away, not make them less significant than they are. Enjoy whatever comes our way. And so, Renee, if you would put up Susie's, I've got a cat to share with you. So Susie said, just lost a pet 3 months ago that I haven't made peace with the passing. Now dealing with another terminal pet. Why would another leave so soon when she knows I'm not at a point to deal with another loss? This is a hard one. It really, really is. On a soul level, those animals are going and passing on their own soul path. And at the time they pass, it also connects with our soul path. And so just like their passing is a new beginning and it feels like it's an ending for us, it's actually the new beginning for us as well. And life doesn't often wait for us to have made peace with something, right? And I think it's good during this time to really take a look at what's coming up with, I'm not at the point, and I don't agree with this, and why is this happening? I think that's so important because it's not a personal, like you're being personally punished at all, any more than my passings have been personal to me as far as has it been hard? Yes. Am I, I have another one who, we'll see how he does. But the best thing we can do is be a support for them wherever they are, and to support ourselves as well. So Renee, if you would pull up the next pieces of I've got some heart shapes for you, as if you hadn't had enough description. So fractured heart. These are regarding animals, right? Have you ever had a fractured heart? What you would call that? In pieces, like aftermath of a sudden tragic loss, like a shattering. I don't know, how would you describe it? Shattered heart, fractured heart, contracted heart. Have you ever felt that? Like it's like a tightening, a shrinking, numbness. We just can't take any more pain. Renee, next one, please, for 3 and 4. Isn't grief weighted? A weighted heart? Heavy burden? Yes. Empty, Steve says. And Susie says, my heart would go numb. All the what ifs and the if onlys keep our hearts so weighted. Destroyed heart, Kara says. See, I knew you guys would come up with some others. And fractured heart for sure. And Kat says a shattered soul. What about an echoing heart? Moments of silence. That deafening silence that we're acutely aware, that void left behind. It's palpable. You can almost touch it, and yet you can't. It's just present. And what about Renee 5 and 6, a navigating heart? I almost think this is a turning point in the grief journey. It's a tipping point. Over time, the heart embarks on a journey of navigating. We process. It may be at a time you find that you reach out to somebody to help, processing the emotions, seeking support, learning how to remember the lost pet without being consumed by the pain. And what about, how's that different from the healing heart? Are any of you experiencing a healing heart right now, where the, moments of respite and clarity begin to emerge? The heart, although still bearing the scar of the loss, starts to heal, reflecting our capacity for resilience. Janet says, all these descriptions are pieces of the heart puzzle needed to rebuild to a whole heart. Would you say, Janet, it's a new whole heart? Because would you say our hearts don't ever quite go back to the shape they were? They keep changing forms. I know I work with so many people and I've met so many different hearts. And all the hearts are precious and valid and tender. So number 7 would be the treasuring heart. As we heal a little bit more, heart begins to focus on treasured memories, cherishing the moments shared with the animal. The pain of loss starts to coexist with gratitude for the time spent together. What about a receptive heart? For all you guarded hearts out there, eventually the heart might open up to new possibilities. This doesn't mean replacing the pet, but rather signifies the heart's capacity to love again, perhaps by adopting a new pet, for those of you wondering about that piece, or channeling the grief into positive actions like volunteering at an animal shelter. This stage actually opens the possibility for another to come into your life, or a new chapter that is a beginning. So where on this scale of 1 through 8 are you resonating with most? Kelly says, at all of these different stages with each pup we have lost, this is fascinating. I agree, because when the animals started talking to me about this, I was like, whoa. So how about, what other ways can you describe? What about smiling heart? Anybody in the room have a smiling heart today? Complete heart? What would complete heart mean versus whole heart? What about a fragile heart? What about a joyful heart? All different shapes. And they flow and they morph and they change. I always like I'll tell you, when Ollie was showing signs that he was headed, toward a passing, there was a weekend there that he got all better and he was running around. He got so much better. And I noticed distinctly my heart smiled, because it had been so heavy without me even realizing, saying goodbye to so many animals, precious, precious friends. And my heart lifted and smiled. And I was like, it's so nice to have my heart smile. And that was such a gift to see that in him. I like Kelly. Kelly says mosaic heart. I like that. Can you imagine the graphic that would look like? Oh my gosh, with a heart, with all the different mosaic pieces. We ought to do a graphic with that one. So what do you want your heart shape to be? Are you reaching for one of those heart shapes? And Renee, if you would put the little graphic up. So if we look at all these different ones, it's like the fractured heart, the expanding heart, navigating heart, treasuring heart, guarded heart, healing heart, open. Didn't you like that little open door there? Contracted heart, smiling heart, mending heart, transformed heart, fortified heart, fragmented heart, receptive, integrative heart. Do you integrate all your experiences? Weighted heart. My goodness, I have felt weighted heart. Echoing heart. Whole heart. Steve says treasuring. Steve, you had an amazing dream. That was a visitation. He wrote in about Angel. He had a beautiful, beautiful dream. And Nancy says, hopefully ever expanding. It takes courage. It takes courage to open and be loved, doesn't it? So question for you, and Renee, if you put up that soul speak shift. What do you know now about your own heart shape because of your relationship with your pet? Where over time have you contracted or expanded? And the reason this is an important 2 questions is if we become highly aware of where our hearts are in any given moment, then we know how we're flowing out to others, how available are we to ourselves. Because if we have it contracted, then we've cut ourselves off as well. And many, many of you reach out to me wanting messages from your precious loved ones who've passed. And it's very difficult for those things to get through when we've contracted and when we're weighted. And there's nothing wrong with contracted or weighted. It's just a step along the journey. You're not going to be stuck there forever. It's always just a journey and a process. Melissa says she's done both. She's done both. Stephen says transformed. What about if you can share some of that? Patty says grateful and blessed. Linda says, I have 4 doxies and they don't understand where Zeus is, why he has not come home. They actually are quite connected with you and where you are in your journey as well, Linda. So let me see. I have some amazing questions to get to, and I'd love to share these with you because we all learn when the animals come through in the teachings and in the questions. So Renee, if you would get those up. Agatha says, that's good to know. I feel like I have closed myself off to others. You know what? It's just good to be self-aware. Like, I didn't realize I'd closed myself off any more than I realized I had such a weighted heart until little Ollie went running around and I literally smiled. It was so good it was such a relief to feel that. My vibration went way up. We adjust to the vibration. So what vibration have you adjusted to that you're not aware of? And this is Pat, my sweet Tami. I still talk to her in the car as I was so used to glancing in the rearview mirror and seeing her in wonderment of where we might be going this time. Adventure, she says. My thoughts stray back to the goodbye look and my heart wells up with tears and the memories spill down my cheeks, like they are now as I write this. I was 70 years old when I adopted her, 75 when she died. Our first year together, we were flooded out of our house. After that, it was a series of medical issues for me. I just hope she didn't feel she was a burden to me as I was dealing with property and health issues. I miss her terribly. Oh my goodness, Pat. Tami and you know each other inside and out. It was, for her, the most wonderful time. She is definitely a healer soul, a teacher and healer soul that has come in to be with you and, she says, to learn herself. She says you guided each other, and she also says that you, how do I word this? You write very well, she says. So I don't know, have you written letters to her? Have you written about her? There's something there about the writing. I don't know if you've written little notes, you've journaled something, or you're thinking about it, or she wants you to. I would definitely start. I'd expand on what you wrote here, because she's extraordinarily present and has no regrets, she says, has no regrets, and doesn't want you to have any regrets. She viewed things like an adventure with you, no matter what you two were doing. The whole thing was about being together. Thank you for sharing that. There's nothing went wrong. And she said, we never say goodbye. Make sure the humans know we never say goodbye. What a beautiful sharing. Thank you. And this is Lauren with Onyx, who lost her life at 4. I can't get over this heartbreak and devastation. I miss her tremendously, and I'm sad for us and for her not living a full life. So I wanted to pull something that Lauren, that's not on here, You asked, how do our hearts continue to grow after our pet has passed? You're like, I'm wondering about your topic. What is our heart shape and how do animals change it? It's interesting because they come into our lives for not always for the quantity of time. They come in for the impact. They come in to jump into the space called living life with us, and the devastation you feel and the heartbreak is equal to the very love that you had together. And you're still going through a tremendous amount of grief. You're going through all those heart shapes like we are talking about. And that would be natural. But what she has clearly said to me is she did live a full life. Humans judge it, and I talked about this before, on the quantity more than the quality. And there's some new beginnings coming for you, she says. She's wanting to help guide you through. She said she was a guide dog. She is a guide dog. So, your relationship and your time together in the short amount of time she had was chock full of a lot of experiences that you've had. She's wanting you to don't focus on the whys, she said. Don't focus on the hows. Focus on the joy that the two of you had together and that you all had together, because that's an honoring of her life well lived. My goodness. And she says she's there, and I don't. Do you have something of hers that you keep near you? Because I'm feeling that you have several things that signify that she's there. And she also is bringing up the smile and the smiley face that you wrote about earlier of seeing a smiley face balloon. She says that you're very connected, and all you have to do is, open your eyes and open your heart. It's so beautiful. I hope that helps you. So this is Lisa. Would you be able to help me understand in relation to my pet spirit after he died tragically on Thanksgiving Day, 2021? He was born on Valentine's Day, 2019. I would love to hear your perspective, Lisa. First of all, isn't it interesting, his name? Spirit. And that's actually what he's pointing to in my reading with him, is he was quite spirited, and he brought spirit to the room, he says. So I don't know if he was a big uplifter for you, but his passing on Thanksgiving Day was not expected, he says. But I'm wondering also for his coming to you, did you expect him to come? There's something about his spiriting in and out of life and body. And of course, he says he was born on Valentine's Day because his heart was the most important thing that you ever noticed. And he brought that kind of love to the table. And again, he's pointing for Thanksgiving Day not to be tragically remembered, but to use the day for the grateful pieces of all that you shared together, and to use the heart shapes that we talked about today to help you navigate the whys. Because he said you're going to get past the whys that aren't that important and start focusing on Thanksgiving being about the gratefulness and the Valentine's being about the love. And again, his name being Spirit. So hopefully that helps you. It's not always easy when those kind of significant dates coincide with their passings. This is Linda says, photo of my sweet boy Zeus. He was only 12 years old. Losing him was losing my soulmate all over again, as she passed away just 4 months before Zeus. That's really hard. I didn't want him to leave me, to leave us. Letting him go was, well, I have no words. me and the doxies try to go on without him. It's just so very hard. As he knew me, he knew my soul. I just need him in my world. Linda, I am so sorry, and I understand this piece of shattered heart and devastation, and picking up the pieces of who we are and not knowing who we are without them. You are at quite a transition point when your soulmate, when she passed away, and then again for him, there was a big opening in the space, he says, that you've been struggling with and been doing a lot of reflection about, and you can't quite reconcile the grief. It was like he's saying you have felt like it's just too much. The fact that you have written in, the fact that he's coming through on the show, you are very much connecting to him. And he says he's bringing her forward. So the two of them have a shared space together and are working with you to open your heart and let all the grief that you have come forward and out. Let it go and let it just come through. And if you'll remember at the very beginning of the show, I was talking about just being in the immediacy of the experience, not fixed. So we tend to fixate on the dates, the how they left, and the whys. That's being rigid in it. If we can just open and, well, I had that experience, then what else is in the room with that? He's still in the room with you. And that's what you're going to feel when you're able to be less rigid in what happened and open more to the presence that both your soulmate and Zeus, your two soulmates, your two most favorite soulmates, are with you. I'm happy to help in any of these. As in our private sessions, we can certainly go, oh my gosh, so much deeper. But at the same time, I love that they share with everybody here. He hears you. He hears you. Talk to him. I hope that helps. This is Melissa. What a precious face. The day I took Jasper to be euthanized literally broke my heart. He was so excited for the car ride, knowing it was his last time. I miss him so. It's so hard to go outside without him. The first I saw in the morning and the last I saw at night. I cry daily and can't get over the guilt and grief. I'm hoping you can tell me he forgives me and doing great. If I do start to feel better, I feel bad that I do and he's not here. I really hope there's some way to know Jasper forgives you. He's saying you need to forgive yourself. Animals do not blame us. There is no blame in their world. There's absolutely none of that. It's a human tendency to blame. It's a human tendency to judge ourselves. His eyes show everything. He says he was all heart and that you are all heart too. And he wants you to remember the joy, actually, and the excited. He didn't see his life cut short because that was his last car ride. That was like a freedom ride for spirit, he says. And we, being human, and I get it. It's the longest journey ever, right? It is the longest journey to take them to, help them pass. He wants you to forgive yourself. He says you need to work on that you're really hard on yourself, and that you could, this is funny. He's saying you could tell his story and you'll feel a lot better, Mom. He's saying, tell my story. So I'd be interested to know what story he's talking about, his journey with you. And he's saying with the grieving piece, and this is for everybody, this is his spokesperson for all animals, in that it is when we do let go of the grief, even for a second, like my little smiling heart, even for a second when we forget we're grieving, our vibration raises, our vibration hits a high, which is where they are. There's no heaviness with them. There's no regret. And so don't feel guilty about feeling better. He wants you to let that go and work on every time you do feel better, really honor yourself and honor him, because he's right there helping you feel better. He's helping you. So open up to tell him, I need your help. I don't think I can do this on my own. Hopefully this helps. Oh my goodness. We are at our hour, and it's been such an amazing journey with you, and I really enjoyed the time. I hope you have too. Thank you for coming with your hearts, all your shapes, and your beautiful animals to share. I'm honored, and my heart is full. Please join me on my next show as we continue the conversation. We'll see what it'll be, what the animals want to talk about on October 11th. And in the meantime, let's always keep the conversation going. Have a great week.
You've been enjoying Tami's Soul Speak featuring animal intuitive and medium Tami Hendricks.